Hey, how's y'all doing, everybody? Again, this is your host, Mr. Blows Your Minds, and welcome to the most hated show in the black corner of YouTube. We've been in the business since 2012. First and foremost, want to say what's good to my fam, my subscribers, my day ones, what's good, fam, and my new ones. Welcome to Black Minds News Report family. Passerbys, if you happen to pass by due to the thumbnail or maybe the simple fact that you like the title in itself, we always got a grand opening. Go down the aisle, see some things that you happen to see that you might like, happen to see something that make you feel some kind of way. Remember, the motto of my show is the truth don't need no partner. Today's date is September the 23rd, 2020, and everybody has been anticipating what has gone down in Louisville, Kentucky as to the grand jury's investigation as to whether they were going to move forward. And today, the decision was made. The Cameron came out as the Attorney General. For those who didn't hear that, but before I get into that, this case has, when we talk about the origins, going back to March 13th, 2020, when many of us seen the videos and heard the story and what took place that night on a supposedly no-knock warrant on a soft target that end up taking the life of Breonna Taylor. Several stories prior to her. Matter of fact, her being in between the Ahmaud Arbery. Then it was her, and then it was George Floyd, and she got kind of buried underneath between the two. Now has come back in full circle, and then just less than a week ago was the releasing, or actually not even really the releasing, well, it was the releasing of the information, but it was also the fact that they had a trial for the wrongful death of Breonna Taylor, where the family was awarded, as they say, a historic $12 million. And many people who, like myself, who do many of these stories, kind of see the pattern that when they start giving the money before they get to the criminal, we kind of understand and we kind of know where this is going. And so today, being September the 23rd, 2020, let me take you, for those who may not have seen or heard, we're going to do is the press conference that was done. And then I will give you my take afterwards of what was being said. And according to all the articles prior to the stories that I've done. And let's go from there. We ready to do that? Check this out, and we shall be right back.
Addiction Division. Federal law enforcement partners are conducting that investigation. Sergeant Mattingly and Detectives COSGROVE and Hankerson had no known involvement in the preceding investigation or obtainment of the search warrant. They were called into duty as extra personnel to effectuate the service of the search warrant. They only had information conveyed to them during their prior briefing. Evidence shows that officers both knocked and announced their presence at the apartment. The officers' statements about their announcement are corroborated by an independent witness who was near in proximity to apartment 4. In other words, the warrant was not served as a no-knock warrant. When officers were unable to get anyone to answer or open the door to apartment 4, the decision was made to breach the door. After breaching the door, Sergeant Mattingly was the first and only officer to enter the residence. Sergeant Mattingly identified two individuals standing beside one another at the end of the hall. a male and a female. In his statement, he says that the male was holding a gun, arms extended, in a shooting stance. Sergeant Mattingly saw the man's gun fire, heard a boom, and immediately knew he was shot as a result of feeling heat in his upper thigh. Kenneth Walker fired the shot that hit Sergeant Mattingly, and there is no evidence to support that Sergeant Mattingly was hit by friendly fire from other officers. Mr. Walker admitted that he fired one shot and was the first to shoot. In addition to all the testimony, the ballistics report shows that the round that struck Sergeant Mattingly was fired from a 9mm handgun. The LMPD officers fired 40 caliber handguns. Sergeant Mattingly returned fire down the hallway. Mattingly fired 6 shots. Almost simultaneously, Detective COSGROVE, also in the doorway, shot 16 times. This all took place in a matter of seconds. In total, 6 bullets struck Ms. the bedroom window. Some bullets traveled through apartment 4 and into apartment 3 before some exited that apartment. At the time, 3 residents of apartment 3 were at home, including a male, a pregnant female, and a child. There is no conclusive evidence that any bullets fired from Detective Hankerson's weapon struck Ms. Taylor. The KSP ballistics analysis did not identify which of the 3 officers fired the fatal shot. After receiving that information, I asked the FBI crime lab to conduct its own analysis to see if they reached the same results. The FBI ballistics analysis concluded the fatal shot was fired by Detective COSGROVE. Our office looked at both reports to determine if there were major differences in the procedures used by each lab that would have led the FBI to identify who fired the fatal shot. Both law enforcement agencies use similar equipment and analysis, and each lab is highly respected for their work. There was nothing our investigators could point to, nor anything provided by the respective agencies, that directly explains why one lab made the call while another did not. I think it is worth repeating again that our investigation found that Mattingly and COSGROVE were justified in their use of force after having been fired upon. Second, the KSP ballistics analysis reached different conclusions, creating a reasonable doubt in the evidence about who fired the fatal shot. I certainly understand the public's desire for answers, and many have questioned the length of the investigation. Simply put, we had to try every means necessary to determine who fired the fatal shot before the investigation could be completed. With a thorough and complete knowledge of all evidence collected in this case, lawyers with our Office of Special Prosecutions presented the findings of our independent investigation before a grand jury comprised of Jefferson County residents beginning on Monday and concluding today. In Fletcher v. Graham, the Kentucky Supreme Court said that the grand jury has competing but balanced functions. On the one hand, its purpose is to investigate allegations of criminal conduct and determine if there is probable cause to believe that a crime has been committed. On the other, the grand jury serves to protect the public against unfounded criminal prosecutions where probable cause is lacking. The grand jury is unique in our criminal justice system because it operates independent of the court and the prosecutor. The hallmark of the grand jury is its independence from outside influence. This independence is necessary to ensure that justice is done both for the victims and for the accused. After hearing the evidence from our team, the grand jury voted to independence from outside influence. This independence is necessary to ensure that justice is done both for the victims and for the accused. After hearing the evidence from our team of prosecutors, the grand jury voted to return an indictment against Detective Hankerson for 3 counts of wanton endangerment for wantonly placing the 3 individuals in apartment 3 in danger of serious physical injury or death. The charge of wanton endangerment in the first degree is a Class D felony, and if found guilty, the accused can serve up to 5 years for each count. Kentucky law states that a person is guilty of wanton endangerment in the first degree when, under circumstances manifesting extreme indifference to the value of human life, he wantonly engages in conduct which creates a substantial danger of death or serious physical injury to another person. My office is prepared to prove these charges at trial. However, it's important to note that he is presumed innocent until proven guilty. During the last 6 months, we've all heard mention of possible charges that could be brought in this case. It's important to understand that all of the charges that have been mentioned have specific meanings and ramifications. Criminal homicide encompasses the taking of a life by another. While there are 6 possible homicide charges under Kentucky law, these charges are not applicable to the facts before us because our investigation showed, and the grand jury agreed, that Mattingly and COSGROVE were justified in the return of deadly fire after having been fired upon by Kenneth Walker. Let me state that again. According to Kentucky law, the use of force by Mattingly and COSGROVE was justified to protect themselves. This justification bars us from pursuing criminal charges in Miss Breonna Taylor's death. The truth is now before us. The facts have been examined, and a grand jury comprised of our peers and fellow citizens has made a decision. Justice is not often easy. It does not fit the mold of public opinion, and it does not conform to shifting standards. It answers only to the facts and to the law. With this in mind, we must now ask ourselves, where do we go from here? Will we continue to prosecute the charges brought in this case as it now proceeds through the justice system and moves to trial? That is our responsibility. And this will be done while the FBI continues its investigation into potential violations of federal law. I know that not everyone will be satisfied with the charges we've reported today. My team set out to investigate the circumstances surrounding Ms. Taylor's death. We did it with a singular goal in mind, pursuing the truth. Kentuckians deserve no less. The city of Louisville deserves no less. Every person has an idea of what they think justice is. My role as special prosecutor in this case is to set aside everything in pursuit of the truth. My job is to present the facts to the grand jury, and the grand jury then applies those facts to the law. If we simply act on emotion or outrage, there is no justice. Mob justice is not justice. Justice sought by violence is not justice. It just becomes revenge. And in our system, criminal justice isn't the quest for revenge. It's the quest for truth, evidence, and facts, and the use of that truth as we fairly apply our laws. Our reaction to the truth today says what kind of society we want to be. Do we really want the truth, or do we want a truth that fits our narrative? Do we want the facts, or are we content to blindly accept our own version of events? We as a community must make this decision. I understand that Miss Breonna Taylor's death has become a part of a national story and conversation. But we must also remember the facts and the collection of evidence in this case are different than cases elsewhere in the country. Each is unique and cannot be compared. There will be celebrities, influencers, and activists who, having never lived in Kentucky, will try to tell us how to feel, suggesting they understand the facts of this case and that they know our community and the Commonwealth better than we do. But they don't. Let's not give in to their attempts to influence our thinking or capture our emotions. At the end of the day, it is up to us. We live here together. We work here and raise our families here together. I urge those protesting on the streets to remember this. Peaceful protests are your right as an American citizen. Instigating violence and destruction are not. I've spoken with both Mayor Fisher and Governor Beshears in the days leading up to this announcement, and I urge them to do what is necessary to maintain law and order and to protect our cities and our people. We have a long road ahead, both as we pursue this case through the criminal system and as we address the pain in the Louisville community. I'm committed to being part of the healing process. When tragedy occurs, we must mourn. We must also do everything we can to prevent it from happening again. Today, consistent with that view, I'm announcing that I will create a task force to review the process for securing, reviewing, and executing search warrants in Kentucky. The task force will consist of a variety of stakeholders, including citizens, members from the law enforcement community, representatives from the judiciary, defense attorneys, and elected leaders. I'll be issuing an executive order in the coming days to create this task force. I believe conducting a top-to-bottom review of the search warrant process is necessary to determine if changes are required and establish best practices. You have my word that I will also vigorously prosecute the criminal charges announced today. I can assure you that my team of prosecutors will continue to give this case their attention and time. We'll also continue to support the good men and women of our law enforcement community who put their lives on the line every day to protect and to serve. And I will fight for those across our state who feel like their voice isn't heard, who feel marginalized, judged, and powerless to bring about change. In a world that is forcing many of us to pick a side, I choose the side of justice. I choose the side of truth. I choose a path that moves the Commonwealth forward and toward healing. You have that choice as well. Let's make it together. Thank you.
All right, so we are black. So, Daniel Cameron, or Cameron Daniel, the Attorney General there was a special prosecutor for this case. And you heard the press conference of what their determination was in the investigation. You know, people try to look at the system and try to believe that when they're trying to render justice, that every facet of its tentacles and every access to its resources will determine what we think justice is. Justice for one person may be justice for somebody else. And so many of us who, especially black media, the black corner of the YouTube who do news on the regular, we kind of look at these on, we have our interpretation. We present what has been presented as public information. And we try to come from a perspective that we, as being Black Americans descended of slavery, and how the system being what it is when it comes towards us. And so what we see once again, as they say, the same old suit, just reheated. What do you mean by that, Mr. Blows Your Mind? Well, what I mean is this. Once we've seen that the $12 million was going to be given to the family, and then they were starting to announce several days, starting from Monday, that they was getting preparation to board up the downtown areas, the buildings and so forth. Many of us kind of already had that feeling of what was going to take place. Now, some people might have heard what they thought they heard and think that somehow that what you thought you heard was some justice being rendered. But once I break down what has just been said, you might think twice about what you felt. So you heard originally he talks about the two officers who were with Hankerson, and that he specifies that they had nothing to do with the search warrant. Now, it wasn't my system that there's times you heard in that interview or the press conference that there was an interruption, that you didn't hear anything. No, this was the so-called transparency of the system, is trying to make sure that you understood everything that is being related. No, that is somebody who thinks that this particular part that is about to be said, they didn't want this to be considered general public information. So you did hear he said that two officers with Hankerson had nothing to do with the search warrant. Now, why would he say that? Is because if you're an avid watcher here on Black Minds News, we had did the story when it talked about in the articles that presented about how they obtained getting the search warrant, which we end up calling a no-knock warrant, and what was presented to in order for them to get that signed by the judge, and what information had to be relayed. And so we know that somehow Hankerson had something to do with that, right? That certain information was presented, talking about, remember, about packages being sent there by the boyfriend, right? Remember that, about the packages. And that even in the reports and the articles that I had covered, even the postmaster said he himself knew nothing about. In his inquiry to find, he found nothing in it. And that there was also another department that also was inquiring. So there's two scenarios happening at the same time here. Okay? And that these officers that is going to be with him were just extra officers who were called for what those who have watched the show over here, remember they talked about her, Breonna Taylor, it was a soft target, right? They just was going to inquire with the search warrant to present to her so that they could search the facility to find the so-called packages. So to have as many officers that they had that night, and what ended up happening and end up being the cause to getting to Breonna Taylor's death, we see what the determination ended up saying who actually is the cause here. And so these two officers who were there were only briefed on the information. They were only going on orders, whatever was told to them. Okay? And so you heard him talk about officers who were there were so-called evidence that showed, remember the whole thing was about, there's a question as to whether they knocked and announced who they were. We heard what Kenneth Walker said. because remember, Breonna Taylor can't say her side. But Kenneth Walker said they were in the bed. They heard at the door yelling, "Who is it?" But nobody would respond. Then there was the batter ramming the door in, and what's going to take place as I go in more to the story. But here's Kenneth Walker, who is an actual individual who was inside the apartment. He is inside of the apartment. He should have more credibility than somebody who you said that is actually going to give credibility that the officers, what they said was factual, because now what you're saying is this, that there was a collaboration by the officers who were all present to be doing the duty that they came that night, that their reports all synchronized together. Are we surprised at that? Right? Are we surprised at that? But they said that there was a neighbor who actually is going to validate what they all collaborated and said. Okay? But later on, I'm going to tell you something had been asked that they were not going to present, but it had been told. Remember, this is just one person. So, based on, again, you got Kenneth Walker, who is inside the apartment. Right? Kenneth Walker is inside with Breonna Taylor. On his testimony of the night that it happened. Remember this. The night that it happens, when he has been arrested, brought into the station, questioned and given his testimony, is the same night when everything is taking place. He is recalling exactly, because it's still within the spirit, and everything that took place, he's recalling. It's fresh. Okay? And that this person who is going to give the witness what the police say is a person who is going to be where? In their apartment, who might be hearing what is going on outside. But does that give the credibility about what is being heard inside? So he's validating them what supposedly they're saying on the outside. Well, what about what is being heard in the inside? And remember, they said that this was a soft target. And the articles that I had read and that I had presented, and again, they suppressed the video so that nobody would have seen it. You would probably have to go back and check that video. But in that video, when they talk about her target, and that feel that she was any threat, Hankerson wasn't even there present when everybody else was there. He came and got informed about what took place because they had already been there. They had been watching and noticed that they were already asleep, and that the bedroom or the TV light was flickering, but never mentioned the fact that there was another individual there with her. So we don't know when they came, but we know they said that they were there present, and the fact that they knew that she was in the bed and that the TV light, and then the TV, I guess, goes off. Then this was the time for them to come. And so the person who is supposed to be making this witness for them to testify or just witness, because remember, this is a grand jury. Everything is secret. We don't get to hear. Remember later on in the I'll tell you what was said, and also later on in that press conference. But the fact is, this is going to give the credibility that they did according to what they stated. Not what Kenneth Walker is saying, the person being inside, the person who was going through the whole ordeal. Not what he's saying, but somebody on the outside is going to validate that, oh yeah, they knocked and they did announce. So, based on the fact that they said there was no answer, no one came to the door, they breached the door. Okay, they came in, knocked in the door. Now remember, that's what Kenneth Walker said too. Kenneth Walker said that they were asleep. The knocking woke them out of their sleep. based on the way that they were knocking, they yelling down, "Hey, who is it?" No response. Okay? So now, if they yelling, "Who is it?" from their position, and you know the one thing they're not showing anybody? You know what they're not showing anybody? Now they will show you this. Let me go ahead and let me present some of this for your visual. Yeah, go ahead and present that. Okay? We're going to put this as a visual. Okay? Now what they're not going to show you is they're not going to show you the inside of the apartment to give you the visual as to see the position of, as I go on more to this story, because remember what he says in this press conference. Well, once I get there, I'll talk about it. But remember the words that he's going to say. And so they breach the door, come in. Remember, that's what Kenneth Walker said. They bust in, and he fires a shot. Okay? Now, according to what you heard in that press conference, you heard him say emphatically, without a doubt, go back and listen to it again if you don't believe me. Mattingly was the first and only one to go in the door. Let me say that again. Mattingly was the first and only one to go in the door. Now, this is Mattingly. This isn't Hankerson. Okay? Okay? Mattingly is the one that goes into the door. Then he gives you the play-by-play as to what Mattingly said and he said in his report. He said that Mattingly said he's seen two individuals standing at the end of the hallway. Let me say that again. Mattingly said it's known that Mattingly is the first and the only one to go in the door. This is when them breaching and breaking in, right? According to what he remembers and recollects of that day, and remember that he does not do this the night of the event. He does this 2 weeks after the fact, or even later after the fact, that who gives his testimony? Kenneth Walker. He gave his testimony and they collaborated after he gave him all his details. Keep that in mind. So now what you got is he saying that he sees two individuals and they are at the end of the hallway. The problem with this is, again, not having the visuals to see the inside of the apartment, to see how far from the door is to where the possibility of where they are. It's only speculative in your mind because you don't know the outlay of the apartment. So you don't know. So you may even think about in your own apartment. You don't have any real visual reference to make that assumption. So all you have is the generalities of just the statement being said. So if a police officer is able to, after coming through the door, and then to see people down the hall. Now, again, we say down, we must mean this distance. It's not within arm reach. It's some distance from me. Correct? We have to assume that because we can't see in the apartment. These are his words according to what we heard in the press conference. And so he goes on and he says that he sees them at the end of the hallway. He says he's able to identify their gender. He knew they were man and female. Let me say that again. Think about this. Ramming the door. You're the only one that gets in. You get in. You see two individuals at the end of a hallway. You're able to identify gender automatically, male and female. Then he says that he noticed the male had a gun in a firing stance. Think of that. You're able to identify, you breaking in, you see a man and a female, then you see the man in a position, got a gun, and he's in a fire position. This is what his word said. This is what you just heard in the conference. Then what he says after that? He said he saw his gunfire. What do you mean you saw the gunfire? In order for you to see the gunfire, what comes in your mind? Are he talking about the spark from the pin to the bullet? So is that somebody that's in light or is that somebody in dark? Let me say that again. He says, remember, he comes through the door, breaches through the door, comes in. He's the only one of the officers to come into the apartment. He can identify right away there's two individuals down the hallway. He can also tell the fact that it's a male and a female. Then he noticed that the man has a gun in his hand and gets into a stance to start firing. Then the next thing he says what? He saw the gunfire. He heard a boom. He felt the heat of his upper thigh. Think about that. This is a police. This is a cop who knows he's already coming in. How come he's not getting off a shot first? How is not the police getting a shot off first? You're able to see so much, and this has to be in uncalculable time to come through a door. How are you not? Okay, you coming in. You think it's a drug bust, so you already geeked up because you're thinking, okay, but in your testimony it was a soft target. So again, y'all actually doing too much. But you were able to come in, see two individuals down the hall, identify male and female, notice he got a gun in his hand and get into a firing stand. You can see the gun spark, you heard the boom, so you see a spark, you hear the boom, and then you feel the heat in your upper thigh. Okay? This is what you just heard him say. So what they say, Kenneth shot Mattingly. Okay, this is what they say. Kenneth shot him. How do we know that? Oh, because you told us he shot him, right? He told you he shot him, right? Because why they say there was no evidence that he was hit by friendly fire by the other officers. How do we know that? All we know is what you say, right? Okay, even you know what they'll do. They'll start telling you, oh, the department this and that, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's so. I mean, think about that. Kenneth Walker has to be very good with a gun to only be shooting one fire and pop the cop that's coming in through his door and pop him dead in his leg. He already coming with gun drawn. This boy back. This is a Western. This is that Sunday Western stuff you see on Quick Draw McGraw. You get what I'm saying? I don't know. Did it happen? Did it not happen? Because again, Kenneth Walker said what he said, right? And so they say the fact that Walker admit he shot one, right? So by him stating the fact that he shot, they say that he shot first. Let me say that again. The fact that Kenneth Walker admitted that he did shoot a warning shot, but they say the warning shot Mattingly. Now they're setting the proceeding to say that Kenneth Walker's shooting first. Okay? That's what they saying, right? Only one knows the truth. Again, remember, there's three sides to the truth. There's your side, there's the other side, and then there's the truth, right? Then they say the fact that all the testimony, the ballistic reports, say that a 9mm shot Mattingly. Wait. The reports, the testimony, where are the doctor statements that said that what bullet did they extract from Mattingly? reports, man, anybody who knows anything about that, you know, like a team, uniform, we all gonna collaborate. But what did the doctor say? What did the doctor who treated Mattingly, where's his report? What did his determination of what he extracted, if there was even one? Because I'm still trying to figure out, okay, let's say if this is true. So according to everything that I just told you, remember, breach your door, comes in, recognize they down the hallway, male and female, sees a man gun in hand. He fires, he sees a spark from the gun, he hears the boom, he feels the heat. Now he returns fire. Now those who again watch this show over here, you heard him say boom, 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 boom. Right? Boom, 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 boom. Right? Right? And so he said boom, 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 boom. So he said he let off 4 shots, right? Okay. And he said 4, but they come to determine that he shot 6 shots. 6 shots that Mattingly let off. So now they say this COSGROVE, the other officer, is now in the doorway. But originally you said that when Mattingly came in, he was the only officer that came in and no one else. Now we're saying that firing shots is being fired, and now we're saying that the other officer is coming in. But as you see on your screen, aren't you seeing that all those placards on there with all those shots being on the outside? Now, I didn't make these. Look at all them shots. Look at that. Look at all them bullet casings that's outside. How are they shooting in? How's COSGROVE, if Mattingly is shot, isn't he trying to get his ass up out of the damn apartment? So y'all coming in gun ho and he trying to get the hell out. Y'all in the little door. Look at that doorway. Really? But look at all those bullet cases all out on the outside. He's in there. They shoot him from inside as he gets in, and this all is taken in milliseconds. This is happening. Boom, 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 pop, 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 pop. It's going on. Then they just, look at all them, and see, look at that. That's where probably Breonna got shot at. Right? So they said that this COSGROVE now is in the doorway. He shoots 16 times. Now his partner hit. He shoots 16 times. But when you look down on that ground, I see in numbers of 30. 30. And then they said that 6 bullets struck Breonna Taylor. Mattingly shot times. What you think probably more like truthful? The 6 shot that Mattingly shot? They trying to tell us that somebody else is shooting Breonna. How? Look at this, man. Look at what you see on your screen. You got 3 dudes and you got a whole other team and most are just out there just shooting. How they all getting in that little door? Look at that little doorway. You're going to end up shooting your man, trying to help him. Get your ass out of there. You understand? But this is what they telling us, right? This is what they telling us. And so also the fact that they're shooting through the bedroom window. They're also shooting through the bedroom window. You're seeing 36 case markings, bullet case markings out there. So now they're talking about that bullets travel through the apartment 4 to apartment 3 before exiting the apartment. They shoot through apartments, going through the apartment into another person's apartment. So how's that happening if they all at the door shooting back? That's not happening, y'all. And so what they say is that there's 3 residents that's at home. And they were at home at the time of this place where they're shooting. There's a male, a female who's pregnant, and a child. And so you heard him say the fact, take a break and come back. Yeah, take one, come back. All right, we back, right? So again, now they're saying that according to the evidence, there was unconclusive that Hankerson struck Breonna, the one they fired saying that was just shooting nilly-willy and wildly, right? So if Hankerson is the one shooting just wildly, all them shots you probably see outside, that's probably his cases, right? He's just letting loose, right? He don't want just letting loose because his buddy is in there, can't get in the door. Can't get in. So he just firing. So they have determined that it was conclusive that none of his bullets shot Breonna. So, okay, take him out of the equation. Okay? So they said that the KSP, they didn't identify which other officers fired the fatal shot. Doesn't matter which shot was the fatal shot. Doesn't matter which shot was fatal, as if any other of the bullets made any difference. It's only the one that killed her is the one that determined the fact whether. You get what I'm saying? They're trying to say that, okay, yeah, everybody was firing, but we can't determine which one of the bullets that killed her. What? Really? So they go on and says that based on the simple fact that the KSP couldn't determine, they asked the FBI crime lab to go ahead and analyze the evidence too. Right? Now, here it was that the KSP couldn't make a determination to figure out which bullet was the fatal bullet. I don't know why you need to figure out which fatal bullet. All you need is to know which gun or whose gun was the one that you found bullets in her. So y'all mean to tell me 3 people that you got at the scene who were wildly shooting, and you do say something in the conference, right, which I'll get to, but ain't no identifying of the bullets of which ones that you found when you made the autopsy on Breonna Taylor? There was none? There was none. But yet the FBI, when it went through its crime lab to analyze, they came to determine that the fact that it was COSGROVE bullets who the ones that killed Breonna. Why did they say that? And why did the KSP say undetermined, unconclusive? Because why? You have 2 different, right, determinations that we can't actually substantiate. And so you heard that this Cameron said that they had to look at both lab analysts to see if the determination was by the same process or similar equipment. What matter? What do I expect that the police station of Kentucky have the same equipment as the FBI? Am I not to think that the FBI don't have more sophistication than just the police station? So if you as the police station can't determine, I'd be damned if I bet my money that I'm pretty sure that when it comes to, when they talk about all this, everybody talking about defunding the police and all that, they ain't no defunding the FBI. And you know they got the latest and most technological part to it. So if they came to determine and specify and said COSGROVE is the one that did this, then the KSP, why you didn't determine it? Could it be conflict of interest? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe your equipment. Because they said they were looking to see if it was the same process, similar equipment. And then they were puzzled. Well, why would y'all both have the different result? Well, maybe there's a conflict of interest. somebody worked there. I'm cool with somebody here. You know what I'm saying? And so we got two different determinations. Just like when you go back and look at the George Floyd situation when they did the autopsy. Remember, Minnesota decided they did theirs, like the KSP, and they determined that he didn't die from that. But then they went and got the expert of autopsy to do it, and they determined that he was. Same thing, seemed like the same MO right here. And so, based on the simple fact that you got two different kind of results, so this allows them to say that Mattingly and COSGROVE were justified in use of force because you have two undetermined to specify. And so the reason they're going to use is the fact that Kenneth Walker fired his gun. Kenneth Walker fired his gun, and based on that, it was because he fired first. Again, just like those when I did the Trayvon Martin 3-minute mystery, where I tell you that the way that they try to do the whole case was based on the fact that Zimmerman was in the right. He's on his way, as he said, going to Target to do some grocery shopping. See Trayvon, as he say, moseying, just walking around, looking around. Seemed like he lost. But was he lost? Was he minding his own business? Did he have the right to determine the move and what he was doing? Wasn't your assumption wrong? After all that's been said, is it still your assumption was wrong? It was wrong. But the problem is, they took away the fact that Trayvon didn't have any rights to be doing what he was doing. And then somehow you and your assumption about what you thought and what your hunch was totally wrong, and that somebody defended themselves, all of a sudden now you're the victim. Now you're the victim. So here's the same situation here with Kenneth Walker. Kenneth Walker, who's in the bed, somebody banging at the door. He says they yell and ask, nobody respond, boom, somebody come in. What he supposed to do? I heard somebody say, well, somebody coming banging at my door like that, I think it is the police. Wait a minute. If anybody kicking and banging at your door, it's at midnight. Why I don't know who it is. I can't determine that there's police. I'm coming out my bed, out my sleep. Your motherfucker talk like that. You understand? So again, they making the fact that he had admitted that he shot, but don't necessarily mean he shot first. He did say that I did a warning shot. The only way that we know that he got hit is because they said so. To say that then Kenneth Walker is a marksman. You understand? That he was able to shoot a cop that could see him and Breonna Taylor, that he got his gun out and he could draw first and still pop the cop. That he's kind of a marksman. That boy kind of cold with a gun. As scared as you heard him on that phone, as scared as what he was talking about, that boy had precision enough to shoot a cop in his leg to put the halt on him. That he don't get hit at all. Breonna catching all the bullets. But again, they saying now that it's because you fired first, that you the one that caused that Breonna's death. So we're trying to put it on you. So he goes on in this press conference and he says the fact that it was because of the KSP and the FBI having two different results, creating a reasonable doubt about who fired first shot. Ain't that something? Because the KSP did not make a determination as to what their findings of who shot Breonna. And the FBI said that it was COSGROVE. If the bullets would have said COSGROVE and the other one, then guess who shot first? That's what he said in the conference there. So they said that it was the grand jury. So now we're going to rely on the grand jury. It is the grand jury. The grand jury. See, we're grand jury, right? So this grand jury, again, court before court. Oh, it's independent. It has nothing to do with the judicial system. It's independent. So this is to sell you in your mind that they don't have any horse in the race. They're unbiased. Every time we've seen that grand jury, man, we have not seen anything go forward. That's why they pull that card out every time, don't they? Okay? So we see that the grand jury is determined that they want to charge 3 counts of wanton endangerment, first degree. Get up 5 years, up to 5 years and 10,000 fine. But the only reason what they charging is nothing to do with Breonna. They've been exonerated for that. They're talking about the fact that the 3 individuals in their apartment, the man, the pregnant woman, and child, is where they are only going to charge. Can you believe that after all that? Can you believe that? Now, I didn't even play you the fact of what they said in the reporters. The reporters had asked several questions. They asked, 6 shots to Breonna HANKERSON. Only 1 killed her. They try to make the only bullet. There was only 1 that killed her out of the 6. Like I said, 6. But you said that Mattingly shot 6 times, and he's the only one inside. So none of his bullets that he shoots Breonna Taylor, that you went and got somebody who else is outside of the door that you can't even say he in the door. Is that what we want to believe? That they shooting inside like that? 1 shot, pop. Something was pop. And all the shots that you hear now are coming from Mattingly's gun. And so his partners are running and everybody shooting it through the window in the bedroom and everything else. Then you see all the stuff outside. Just bullet markings everywhere. Seeing how, Look at the bullet cases and stuff, all that. All outside. Like the 3 that probably hit Breonna right there. So they're never going to show us what is inside, because I believe he was upstairs. Wasn't down. I think there's an upstairs from there, upstairs where the bedroom is. So the whole thing is about grand jury, grand jury. What was the racial makeup of the grand jury? Oh, well, we can't disclose it because this is private. So they even said that they didn't even have, now here it was the HANKERSON, the one that's some of this wanton shooting that's going firing wildly, but nothing conclusive to say that his bullets hit Breonna. You're going to say he's shooting wildly and that he could have killed some neighbors, but he's shooting at, is he shooting at Breonna at all? Is he anywhere in the apartment? And whose bullet has hit Breonna? We're talking about the fatal bullet. Whose bullet hit her? You mean to tell me a dude shooting, staying in the hallway, so did he leave Breonna? Or anyway, man, whatever, right? So there's one more part in there. And they talked about, did the officers knock or not, and what was the evidence? The officer's statement, who were there, they said they didn't have to use the no-knock warrant, and that a resident who was upstairs is the one. And the reporter said that she went to investigate. Out of 12 of the residents, only 1 out of the 12 said that they heard that. Here it was after midnight, and you asking people who were dead asleep, and this is the justification to say that the no knock was validated because 1 witness out of 12 people heard it. But yet, Kenneth Walker is inside and saying what he's doing from the position he's in. Right? Right? All right, so there it is, y'all. That's what it is. So basically, Breonna Taylor has been killed and charging it to the game. That's what they're saying. $12 million to the family, charge it to the game. And we go back to business and we talk about some things that we're going to change and write and all that other stuff. That's what it is, y'all. You tell me what you think, man. Right? Maybe you seen something, maybe something I said you didn't see. Get one more break and be out of here. All right, we are black. So again, I want to thank each and every one of you for clicking on the video. Subscribe, share, comment, say, hey, Mr. Blue Mind, I think you're full of shit. Whatever it is that you feel to do, we are EEOC over here. We do not block and do none of that stuff, but you all entitled to your opinion, just as well as we do what we do over here. We do have another channel that you can go over to BLAK, that's Black Minds TV, BLAKMINDZ TV. Help me to get that channel to 1,000. Some of y'all been going over there. I like to preach. I appreciate each and every one of you for doing that. That's how you can help contribute over here. And again, you know, everybody say about transparency and that there's no bias in the law and that justice has been served and that we don't want people to influence and try to change the fact that what we know what it is. But again, a square peg gonna square with a square peg with a round hole. And square peg just don't fit no matter what kind of truth you try to tell it and make it. So I guess if they okay with it and cool, we have to accept it and be okay with it as well. If the family took it and did, that was a deal that was made and they was okay with it, then who are we to complain? We just see what it was. We see what it is. So again, until the next show, y'all, you know we're going to see over here to the next show.